Hello everyone, this is Luke again, and welcome back to yet another video onto the channel today. So, this is going to be a final video in a series that is over a year old, and I really wanted to end it on at least somewhat of a note rather than just a random video. But today is going to be the final video of my COPPA updates playlist, where I'm not going to give another update or a last update, but I'm overall going to be diving into what COPPA was and how it affected YouTube and the overall legacy it had, if there is one. So, let's do that. COPPA was a law back in the late 90s. Yeah, this is not a new law. A lot of people, when they found out that COPPA was going to be hitting YouTube about 20 years later, they thought it was a brand new thing that the government had signed. But no, this was happening even before YouTube even existed. So it started in the late 90s, I think around approximately 1998. And nobody really took it seriously. COPPA is known as the Child Privacy Protection Act, or I think the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, or something like that. And it was supposed to help protect children online from like scams and bad things. Um, so yeah, but nobody really took it seriously. Now there were some websites that did have to enforce the these fines, but they weren't of significance. That is until September of 2019, when it finally hit YouTube. I think, over 20 years after the law had been created, it finally struck one of the world's biggest websites in the form of YouTube. YouTube was caught um, selling private ads towards children, and they had to pay a really, really hefty fine for it. Um, and that they were caught, and they because there were a lot of things talk about how YouTube is the brand new place for kids. So that definitely led them to the FTC to use that fine to get YouTube that fine. Um, and then these new policies were implemented on January 6th, 2020. Even though YouTube said it would be January 1st, 2020, they didn't implement them until 5 days later. That part I don't understand. Why would you say to implement them on January 1st if you're not going to implement them until 5 days later? Um, so, yeah. But basically, with COPPA, there was a huge loads of changes. You basically had to determine if your channel was made for kids or not. Now, obviously, there are definitely obvious channels that are definitely made for kids, such as CoComelon, um, any educational videos, or at least and basically any preschooler or toddler type content. Those are clearly made for kids. And then there's clear ones that are adult. But then here's the hard part. There's this gray area where a lot of channels are in this middle ground where they're not exactly made for kids, but they're not exactly for adults either. They're somewhat in the middle. And that's where the problem with COPPA really started. Because most of the content that was watched, from what I've seen on YouTube, um, was in that gray area where you weren't sure if it was made for kids or not. And YouTube didn't really help along with that. They were saying, oh, you have to look into these arbitrary set of details that determine if your content is made for kids or not. So, it wasn't really a huge help, especially considering the fact that they were taking away major things if you set your channel as made for kids. The biggest of these was the comment section. The comment section is one of, if not the most important tool on YouTube, as it can give feedback to a video, and you could either praise or dislike the video. Um, if you like or dislike a certain video, the saying you like or dislike is the thumbs up thing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, what I'm saying is they took a lot of features away. They didn't include the comments too. They include save to playlist. They took that. The community tab, the stories. They took a lot of stuff away. Now, obviously, COPPA didn't completely get rid of all ads. It's just the ones you can the personal ads or personalized ads. That's it. The ones that is more of a preference. And they basically said you can't do that if you're under the age of 13 in the United States. Now, as for other countries, I don't know. And there was a big controversy as that the COPPA only affected American channels and American YouTubers, but it didn't affect anywhere else, considering the COPPA is an American law. So it wouldn't make sense for, let's say, a British man.
Get your hammer, bud.
Sorry for the interruption. That was my dad. You need to get my hamper for my clothes. But anyway, it wouldn't make sense for a British man to be affected by a United States law unless, well, if that British man was born in the United States. So, and a lot of popular YouTubers said that was basically said that there was sort of a way out of this, because I remember PewDiePie made something about how if you change the location setting of where you're coming. No, wait, that's a completely different thing. That's something completely different. I'm very sorry. Blah, 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 blah. Whoops. That was something completely different. Okay, so completely unrelated. Sorry. But basically, yeah, COPPA as a whole was a mess. And then there was a theory, I actually made that on YouTube, where that COPPA would only affect those that actually made money off of their videos. So basically, if you were not monetized, you could basically get away with COPPA. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this was true or not, because part of the reason it was that another huge aspect was the fines if you were to break COPPA's law. Apparently, people thought that the 42,000 fines were the minimum. They were the minimum of what you could. But no, they interpret that extremely wrong, and that $42,500 was the maximum. They will fine you based on how much you make and how if it will affect someone's salary or not. Basically, if you don't want to price them so much that the company goes under, basically. So there was a big ordeal on that. And then we get into the main portion of why COPPA messed up. Mismarked videos. Basically, there were kid videos being marked as adult, which is very rare, but the way more common one are adult videos being marked as made for kids. Some examples that I've heard about were a sex cartoon, a Nazi video, a murder trial, a Family Guy video of a child being beat up, and many more. It seemed like COPPA was targeting animation, especially animation that seemed to be for kids, but completely not. This gave off that stereotype that animation is only for kids, which which that is clearly not true, and it can be enjoyed by everyone. But unfortunately, YouTube did not understand that. But I think the FTC did it. Sorry, because I remember a friend of mine. He said that the FTC really can't tell what is made for kids or not. So it really questions, why did they sue YouTube in the first place if they can't tell? Um, there were a lot of mismarked videos, um, but they have eventually have died down. But one major incident involved the creator of Narmak. If that name sounds familiar to you, this creator is the person who did the SpongeBob anime, or the SpongeBob anime OP or something like that, EP, whatever. That person. And one of his or their uh, videos on the SpongeBob anime got copyright struck and taken down because of it being mismarked as made for kids. Now, I can somewhat see this since SpongeBob is like the stereotypical children's cartoon. It is the stereotypical children's cartoon. But still, the older SpongeBob episodes can be enjoyed by everyone. And that was the beauty of these shows, is that they could be enjoyed by everyone. But a lot of companies just don't understand that. They think that everything has to go into a certain area, and that either it's this or it's that. There is no middle ground to that. So, what do I think is the overall legacy of COPPA? Honestly, we the creators are at fault here, because we overblew something that really didn't do a whole lot. It really didn't change the platform as a whole. No one's careers ended because of this law. No YouTuber was forced to stop uploading. Now, obviously, there were significant losses in money, obviously, but that was bound to happen even without COPPA, especially during the time around January when, Christmas season has ended and not many people are paying for stuff anymore, or in that time frame. And especially now with the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy was really basically in a clusterfuck. So, that was expected to happen regardless of COPPA. But the only thing I think COPPA will be remembered for is that it basically threw the YouTubers into mass hysteria, only to find out that it didn't really do anything. It didn't really change the way YouTube worked, considering it really wouldn't matter if your content was made for kids or not, unless it was specifically unless you're like a channel like Coco Melon. Um, but what I see COPPA, or at least the implementation of COPPA on YouTube, that all it showed is that companies do not think of the middle. They don't think there's a middle ground with some things. They think there is either this or it's that. They have this or that mentality, when there's this middle mentality that they don't have. And it's just really shocking that companies like YouTube do not understand this. I remember there was a Twitter hashtag that said animation is for everyone on trending on Twitter. Now, it had nothing to do with COPPA, but it gives off that same vibe, because other people still think that you shouldn't be watching certain shows because, oh, it's animated. That's made for kids. No. Not all animation is made for children. Some are clearly adult oriented. So, yeah. And overall, COPPA didn't really change anything about YouTube. In fact, we were just basically worried about nothing. We worried about nothing, considering the FTC doesn't really know what's made for kids and what's not. So it really just completely nullifies the whole point of the implementation on the website. What's the point if you really don't know if you're going to determine it? It just really seems like the government is trying to, basically censor everything, or at least put everything into certain boxes that they don't really need to be put in. And that's a shame. But the only other thing I will say is that the same senator who was in support or uh, passed the COPPA law, or was in support of it, um, also wanted to try a new bill called the Kids Act, where it was basically the Kids Act, KIDS, and it was basically gonna harbor a lot of content, and it was gonna protect children from malicious advertising. I don't know the status of that, but what what I do know is that he was trying to pass it, considering he thinks that children are being manipulated by advertisements, and thus he would technically ban a whole genre of content onto YouTube, and that was unboxing videos, because according to him, that was malicious advertisement to children. So, yeah, this guy just doesn't seem to understand that kids are not that stupid, all right? They're not that innocent. And if we continue to think they are, we're just digging ourselves further into a hole that we just cannot escape. But yeah, that is overall my final legacy, my final video on the COPPA updates. If you're wondering, this video was inspired by, in fact, almost all of them were inspired by a creator I subscribe to called Deep Humor, where he covered the COPPA thing and even made a half-hour documentary focused on it. And I will link that documentary in the comments below. I mean, not in the comments, in the description. And I'll also link his channel because I think he really deserves it. Now he's talking about comment bots, especially if you see the comment bot vom.in.net. Yeah, so he also has a gaming channel as well. He's also done videos on the Vic Mignogna case and overall other stuff. So if you want to subscribe to him and check out the documentary, please click the link in the description. But what do you guys think is what do you think the legacy of the implementation of COPPA on YouTube is? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel by clicking that red subscribe button, and click the notification bell to see every video that I will upload. And I'll see you folks in the next video. Bye-bye!